Thanks for clicking! Canada's unemployment rate is hitting worrying levels. This according to Brendan Bernard of Indeed.com.
Yeah, no Sherlock.
Indeed, with the unemployment rate rising to 6.6% and the Bank of Canada cutting rates on concerns over the economy, clearly worries over Canada's economic development are mounting. But given that it's been 7 years since Canada has had a non-emergency unemployment rate this high, and even longer since the unemployment rate was 6.6% and moving up, I think it's worth taking a look at what the historical context can teach us about where we are heading. So what I want to do today is go over Canada's unemployment rate, take a look at the historical context, comparing the last 3 times unemployment was this high, and then discuss some implications. As we'll see today, the current state of Canada's economy is definitely unprecedented over the past 25 years. We will obviously continue to track Canada's economic development on this channel. Click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, let's get into unemployment. On to Canada's unemployment rate. As mentioned, Canadian unemployment is now sitting at 6.6%, the highest non-COVID unemployment rate that Canada has seen since 2017. In that dismal reading has many noting that the Bank of Canada has more ammunition to cut rates, with Doug Porter from the Bank of Montreal noting that there is a growing chance of a more forceful pace to interest rate cuts, meaning the Bank of Canada could start dropping rates in increments greater than 25 basis points. And with the unemployment rate at 6.6, Brendan Bernard summarized the situation quite well.
And so that 6.6% that we're now at, it's trending in the wrong direction, and it's we've gone from low to normal, and to now starting to approach worrying levels.
But how worrying of a level is it? The media was quick to note, as mentioned, that unemployment was at its highest level it's been outside of COVID since 2017, but as we'll see, that comparison is not overly apt.
Don't worry, Scrub.
Now, just a few quick notes on unemployment when we're looking at that measurement. We're not just looking at people that don't have a job. They must be actively looking for a job as well and not being able to find one. So, when more people are looking for a job and unable to find one, unemployment rises. And this is why Canada can add 22,000 jobs as it did in August, but we still saw the unemployment rate go up. The labor participation rate, the number of people actually entering into the job market and looking for a job, increased. And when that number increases, the amount of people looking for a job increases, but we don't see an increase in the amount of jobs taken, then unemployment rises. And the reason why all of this matters is that it shows that right now, the economy is relatively more weak than it was in 2017. As in 2017, the labor participation rate was 66.1%, which is 1% higher than the 65.1% that we have right now. Meaning, the unemployment rate is masking some of the actual problems occurring in the economy. If we had more people out there looking for jobs, a similar amount of people that we had in 2017, then the unemployment rate would indeed be higher. But it's not just the labor force participation rate that is making the current situation look much worse. As in 2017, Canada's unemployment rate was actually on its way down, having peaked in April of 2016 and then gradually on the way down in 17 before bottoming right before the pandemic. And we can see that the central bank knew the economy was on the mend the last time unemployment hit 6.6%, as it was just about to raise interest rates, increasing rates by 125 basis points and leaving them there until right before the pandemic. And as a brief side note, those interest rate hikes came in 2017 after a record-setting year in 2016 as a result of years of zero interest rates, back when the real estate industry said everything was normal. Following the rate hikes, the banks lamented affordability, and the CREA called for the government to loosen restrictions so parents could access their RSPs to gift larger down payments, as house prices were doing this. Sound familiar?
Revolutions.
Yeah, that's why I made this video today, as looking at the history helps.
Oh, really?
Regardless, comparisons of our current situation to 2017 aren't exactly apt, as the unemployment rate was actually coming down in 2017, and the Bank of Canada was taking steps to cool the economy after years and years of 0% interest rates. Actually, the last time Canada's unemployment hit 6.6% and was on the upswing, heading upward, was in the aftermath of the 2008 global financial crisis, back when the bank had to drop rates to zero in order to manage the fallout.
Well, just this once.
But we can't really use 2008 as a comparison either, as that was, hopefully, a once-in-a-generation global financial meltdown. It's an outlier. It doesn't really tell us anything about where the Bank of Canada could be heading this time around. In fact, the only other comparison that we have where Canada's unemployment rate hit 6.6%, moving upward over the past 25 years, is back in the year 2000, when Canada's unemployment rate was sitting at 6.6 and rising, and our policy rate was sitting at 6%, or 175 basis points higher than it is right now. But even that unemployment rate, that 6.6%, was an outlier as well, due in large part to the dot-com bubble bursting in the United States. But even with that one, the Bank of Canada allowed the unemployment rate to rise to 6.8% in December of 2000, before it started aggressively dropping rates to deal with the bust, and then of course dropped even further post 9/11. But that's it. Those are the only two non-COVID examples that we have over the past 25 years where the unemployment rate was this high and rising, both caused by exogenous factors, the global financial crisis, again originating in the United States, and the dot-com bust, again originating in the United States. It was also this high in 2005, but again that doesn't really tell us anything, as the unemployment rate was on the downward trend. Further, it's also worth noting that Canada has other intervening variables that are present now that weren't present the last few times unemployment was this high. First, debt to disposable income was much lower in 2000 and 2008, meaning the last two times that the bank cut rates to deal with the unemployment rate this high, Canadians had a lot more room, a lot more ability to take on additional debt to stimulate the economy.
Pat, stand up.
Second, in both 2000 and 2008, Canada had not just undergone its highest level of inflation in 40 years, so there weren't really any major concerns that the bank was going to fuel inflation, and as a result of that inflation, wage growth wasn't running nearly as hot as it is right now. And finally, the only two examples available to us of Canada having an unemployment rate this high over the past 25 years were augmented, or flat out caused, by a major economic downturn coming from the United States, which, as of right now, does not appear to be on the horizon. The US economy is obviously weakening, but, as of right now at least, Canadian economic troubles are all homegrown, which really hasn't been the case for the past 25 years.
It's the least I could do.
So it's really difficult to predict where we're going to be heading. And that's not even to mention the mortgage renewal crisis soon to be on the horizon. And I bring up the lack of data on an unemployment rate this high or in an economy this weak, as we're seeing a lot of predictions in the media about where interest rates are heading, when we really have absolutely zero examples to act as a historical guidepost. Now, this isn't to say that interest rates are not heading down. Indeed, they probably are, and much more so. But we are starting to get, or rather continuing to get, the experts never really stopped predicting the future, more advice on how Canadians should be acting given the current environment. And all of this advice, all of these predictions are coming when absolutely zero historical references are available to prove these assertions, to support these assertions over the past 25 years. And, like I said, it's not that Canada's economy isn't going to weaken further and that interest rates aren't going to drop. It probably is, and they probably are. It's that it's very difficult to predict how far this is going to go. How bad is it going to get, and how much firepower can or will the Bank of Canada have to bring to the table, as we just haven't seen a non-US induced emergency here in Canada over the past 25 years. So, Canada's unemployment rate is rising and hitting worrying levels. However, the extent to which we should be worried remains unclear, as we just don't have any accurate, any apt comparisons to look to for the past 25 years. Unfortunately, or not, the last few times Canada has had an unemployment rate this high, the cause was largely coming out of the United States, which just isn't the case this time. This unemployment rate is largely homegrown. As such, since the source of the economic stress is much different this time around than it's been the last few times Canada's economy has weakened this much, it's likely that the economy will behave in much different, less predictable, ways than it has the past few times around. We will obviously continue to track Canada's economy on this channel. Click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates, but for now, thanks so much for watching.